I married Megan Davis right after we graduated college. We had been together for 3 years before tying the knot. I was a little older than her by 3 years, thanks to a 2-year stint in the Peace Corps before I started school. Both of our families were happy for us, but I swear, no one was more thrilled than her mother, Karen. Karen had never had the kind of love story we were living. She got pregnant young, and her ultra-religious parents basically turned their backs on her. A few years later, she married an older guy named Tom Davis, not for love, but for financial stability so she could raise Megan. Tom was a solid guy, a provider, but he had all the charm of a coffee mug. Karen never had a real engagement, never wore a white dress, never had a big wedding. So when Megan and I were planning ours, Karen soaked it all in like it was her own. I always liked Karen. She was only 11 years older than me, so I never saw her as some distant mother-in-law figure. She felt more like a cool aunt. Pretty too. Green eyes instead of Megan's blue. A little shorter, more reserved in how she dressed. There was something soft and quiet about her. She carried herself with grace, though she never showed off. 4 years into my marriage, Tom passed away from a heart attack. It was not exactly a surprise given his health, but still, it shook Karen up badly. I took care of the estate, helped her through the logistics, and made sure she stayed close to us. I wanted to keep her involved in our lives, in her charity work, in anything that would help. But if there was one thing Karen would not entertain, it was the idea of dating again. I knew a handful of guys, some younger, some closer to her age, who would have jumped at the chance, but she was not interested. That door was closed. About 6 years into the marriage, things took a turn. I found myself in that gut-wrenching spot every loyal husband dreads, realizing the woman I loved had been unfaithful. At first, I wanted to believe I misunderstood. But once the truth came out, I did not wait around. I packed up, moved into an extended stay motel, and started separating our finances. Megan said she still loved me and tried to downplay the whole thing, saying it was just physical and that I was overreacting. That made it worse. I knew she had confided in Karen, and even though I had never called Karen Mom, I figured she was probably in Megan's corner. So, when Karen showed up in my motel room 3 days after I moved out, I was surprised, but I let her in. We sat on the worn-out motel couch, and she took my hand gently. "I'm so sorry, David," she said softly. "I didn't raise Megan to do something like this." I squeezed her hand. "Karen, I know you're not to blame. You've always had strong values. Megan made this choice, not you." Her eyes got glassy. "It's just hard. I want to be there for her, but I can't pretend this doesn't hurt everyone." "I'm getting by," I said. It caught me off guard, sure, but I'm clear-headed. I made my decision. It's going to hurt for a while, but I'll be okay. She asked if I thought there was any chance I could forgive Megan and work things out. I told her I honestly did not know. What made it worse was Megan acting like what she did was not a big deal. That made it harder to process. We talked for about an hour, about Megan, about life, about random things. When Karen got up to leave, she gave me a long hug, longer than expected, given the situation. She looked me in the eyes and said something I did not expect. "I hope divorcing Megan doesn't mean you're divorcing me too." "Karen," I said, "you'll always have a place in my heart. That's not changing." And I meant it. Her visit gave me some comfort. She did not excuse Megan, did not pressure me, did not sugarcoat anything. She showed up for me, and I appreciated that. But later that night, I woke up in a cold sweat, had one of those dreams you do not want to admit to anyone. It was about Karen. I tried to shake it off. The following week, I filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Told my landlord I was done with the lease. Megan did not take it well. She could not believe I was following through. Her lawyer tried everything, talks of counseling, delays, emotional appeals. It was exhausting. I was still processing it all, but I stayed firm. I would not back down. What helped me through those first few months? 2 good buddies who were single and blunt with their advice, and Karen. She called me once a week just to check in. She would share little stories from her volunteer work just to keep things light. And every month, we would meet up for lunch. It became kind of a tradition. She always showed up cheerful, trying to lift my spirits. About 3 months in, we had a preliminary court hearing with a magistrate. It was on a Monday afternoon. Megan came in asking for court-mandated counseling, saying she wanted to fix things. But my lawyer was ready. He showed photos of Megan having lunch with the same guy she cheated with, at least twice since we filed. Even though she swore nothing physical had happened since I moved out, the judge did not buy it. Her request for counseling was denied. The writing was on the wall. This marriage was on its last leg. The next day, Karen called me at work. That was not something she usually did. After a little small talk, she got straight to it. David, I'm guessing you know Megan called me yesterday. She is a mess. It sounds like the divorce is definitely moving forward. Yeah, I said. I'm sad about it, but I have made peace with my decision. My attorney says things should be wrapped up in a few months. Well, she said, her voice soft but upbeat. I figured you might be feeling down. I was wondering if you would join me for dinner on Friday. Unless it would feel weird going out with your soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law. Should I wear a disguise? I chuckled. No disguise needed. It actually sounds kind of nice. Though I might not be great company. I will make sure you enjoy yourself, she said. And I will do the cooking, or at least choose a good restaurant, since we both know cooking is not your strength. Fair enough, I said. I can meet you there, or you can pick me up. Nope, I'm treating you. No arguments. I will pick you up around 7 o'clock. That night, I had another one of those dreams, the kind that leaves you feeling guilty even though nothing actually happened. And then Friday came. At 7:02 p.m., I opened the door and just stood there. Karen looked stunning, not in a motherly, sweet way. She had on a fitted blouse with a plunging neckline, a short skirt, and heels. Light makeup, her green eyes sparkling. Her hair done in a new style. She looked like she was in her 30s, not 43. She looked nervous until I finally found my voice. Wow, you look incredible. She smiled, clearly relieved. Thank you. The place I picked is a bit fancy. I didn't want to feel underdressed. New outfit? I asked. She nodded. Bought it this week. Thought it was time to try something different. She chose a nice place, classy, with a dance floor in the back. On the drive over, her skirt rode up higher than I think she realized. I caught a glimpse of more leg than I had ever seen from her, and it took all my strength to look away. Dinner was great. Karen was in rare form. Funny, lighthearted, glowing. It felt good to laugh again. She ordered a bottle of wine for the table, which was not like her. Normally, she barely touched alcohol. I had one glass. She drank the rest. After dinner, she pulled me onto the dance floor. The last time I danced with her was at Megan's wedding and once or twice after Tom passed. Back then, she had turned down almost every guy who asked her to dance. But this night felt different. Back when Karen and I had danced before, she was quiet and graceful, very reserved. But that night, she was electric, confident. She moved like she had been doing this for years. After a few songs, she said she needed a break and headed to the ladies' room. I sat at our table, still trying to wrap my head around how well she danced. When she came back, I asked, "Where did you learn a move like that?" She smiled, a little bashful. "I've been taking lessons. Every week for almost a year now." "Well, it shows," I said. "You were amazing out there. You definitely caught some eyes." "I did," she blushed. "I didn't notice." Right then, a man walked up and asked Karen if she wanted to dance. I hesitated, realizing that to anyone else, we probably looked like a couple. Still caught off guard, I said, "Well, I guess that depends on my mother-in-law." The guy blinked, confused. Karen laughed and gave my hand a playful swat. "He's joking," she told him. "But since this is only our second date, I can't risk some young things stealing him away. So I'll have to pass tonight." She smiled warmly at the guy, who kissed her hand and walked off. "You're something else," I told her, shaking my head. Just then, a waiter came over with drinks, a soda for me, and what looked like a Bloody Mary for Karen. "I didn't order that," I started to say. "I did," she interrupted, on my way back from the restroom. I raised an eyebrow. Karen was never much of a drinker, but she downed the Bloody Mary like she was trying to prove something. I sipped my soda. A few songs later, after we hit the dance floor again, she leaned in close. "I think I've had enough. Dancing and drinking. Would you mind driving me home? I don't think I should be behind the wheel." She looked a little unsteady. I nodded, got the car from the valet, while she freshened up one last time, then drove her to her place. Karen lived in a cute, stylish house just outside the city, not far from where I was staying. As we pulled into her driveway, she chattered on, thanking me for the evening, saying she hoped I had a good time, and that maybe, for a little while, I had forgotten about Megan's betrayal. She fumbled with her keys, so I helped her into the house. As soon as we were inside, she locked the garage door behind us and slid the bolt with determination. Then she turned to me and pulled something out of her purse. "These are for you," she giggled, pressing a small bundle into my hand. It was a pair of panties. I stood there, stunned, my face turning 10 shades of red. Before I could even react, she reached for the button on her skirt and dropped it to the floor. "What are you doing?" I asked wide-eyed, but she was already unbuttoning her blouse. And then, there she was, standing there in just her bra and heels. I had always thought Karen might be hiding something under all those conservative outfits. But what I saw left me speechless. She was gorgeous, curvy, toned, and everything in between. She stepped up to me, kissed my neck, my cheek, and whispered, "I've gone too long without being touched. And I need someone I trust, someone who sees me." Before I knew it, her hands were in places I wasn't ready to admit, and mine were holding her tight as I carried her into the bedroom. In that moment, I knew I'd regret it, but I also knew I couldn't stop. We made love. There's no other way to put it. Not a fling, not a mistake. It was raw, emotional, and intimate. Afterward, I was exhausted physically and mentally. She curled up against me and said something that threw me off completely. "Please stay, David. I've never woken up next to someone I love." Love? I tucked that word away, unsure how to handle it. But I stayed. We fell asleep tangled together, and I had the kind of dreams I usually forget by morning. Only this time, I remembered everyone. When I woke up, she was already touching me, and I realized my last dream had not been a dream at all. Karen looked at me with those intense green eyes and whispered, "Thank you for the best night and morning of my life." We talked for a bit. It was nice. I still wasn't fully thinking about what any of this meant. She suggested we shower together. I laughed and said sure, but before I could get out of bed, she grabbed me, her voice cracking. "I'm sorry I said I love you. I didn't mean to scare you." It was our first shower together, and from the look on her face, probably her first with anyone. She was so happy, like a kid on Christmas morning. Afterward, she made breakfast in nothing but a short robe, singing to herself. She looked radiant, carefree, even. It felt good. The kind of morning that makes you forget how complicated life really is. I offered to wash the dishes while she got dressed. She came back out in denim shorts, a soft blouse, and flats. Again, she looked far younger than 43. She drove me back to my place, but before I got out, she asked, "Could I see your apartment?" "I've never been inside." "Sure," I said, a little hesitant. Once we were in the bedroom, she took a deep breath and laid her hands gently on my chest. "David, would you make love to me here? In your bed?" The way she said it, soft, vulnerable, I could not say no. Her sweetness, her touch, everything about her just undid me. I undressed her slowly, carefully, but my own shirt buttons didn't survive. The rest of the afternoon was a blur of sheets and breathless laughter. We lay there afterward side by side. "Did you enjoy that?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, "but I think my spine's gone soft. I might not recover." She laughed and massaged my back. We dozed off for a while. It was quiet, peaceful. Eventually, she looked at the clock. "Am I ruining your Saturday?" "Not anymore," I said. "Want to go to the movies tonight?" Her eyes lit up. You could come over. I'll make dinner. We can watch something on the big screen." "Sounds good," I said. "What time?" "Come at 5:30. You can help chop vegetables. I'll make a terrible roast." She left, and I sat there for a long while just staring at the ceiling. What the hell are you doing, man? I asked myself. She's your mother-in-law. Think about Megan. About what happens if this gets out. She's catching feelings, you can see it plain as day. I ran a hand through my hair. This woman, she might be falling for me. And maybe I'm falling too. I did not know what I was going to do. But for that weekend, I chose not to decide. I figured I would enjoy the ride for a little longer. And what a weekend it turned out to be. Saturday night, we cooked together. We ended up not finishing the movie because we moved to the couch and into each other's arms. Sunday morning, we hit the gym she belonged to, worked up a sweat. Then we drove out to the trails and went hiking. Found a quiet spot in the woods. Made love in the back seat of my car. Didn't care that we were drenched in sweat. It was real. Wild. Unfiltered. One more time, that night, her bed again. By Monday morning, I felt calm for the first time in a long time. That peace didn't last. After breakfast, just as I was about to leave for work, Karen touched my hand and said softly, "David, can we talk for a minute?" "David, can you promise me something?" Karen asked, her voice quieter than usual. "Please let me get through what I have to say without stopping me. No questions until I'm finished." I nodded, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. "Of course. I'm listening." She let out a long, shaky breath and started to talk. Once she began, the words poured out like a river. It was the longest stretch I'd ever heard her speak without a pause. But even with how nervous she seemed, her voice was clear, steady, and honest. "I've loved you since the day we first met," she began. "You're the only man I've truly loved." Hearing that sent my heart racing, but I stayed quiet. She went on to say that she understood our relationship didn't make a lot of sense. There was the age difference. She was 11 years older than me. And then there was Megan. The pain it would cause her daughter if she ever found out. On top of that, Karen reminded me that she could no longer have children, and she knew how much I had wanted a family of my own someday. "And maybe," she said softly, "maybe you'll never love me the way I love you. I've come to terms with that. But I'll take whatever part of your heart you're willing to give. I'll always be here for you, in whatever way you'll let me." When she finished, I couldn't speak. I was stunned, not just by her words, but by the weight of them. She stood up and looked at me with those vivid green eyes. "Go to work," she said gently. "I'm sorry if I took up too much of your time." I stepped forward, kissed her deeply, and said, "I have a lot to process. Don't be hurt if I keep to myself for a little while." She nodded and smiled. "Take the time you need." The next 2 weeks were chaos inside my head. When I wasn't completely focused on work, my thoughts drifted to Karen and to Megan. Some nights, I dreamed of Karen, us traveling together, laughing in bed, making love, even raising a whole tribe of kids. One dream, I swear we had 12. Every day I called Karen, just quick chats. Nothing serious. She never pushed, never brought up the future, never pressured me. Once, she mentioned that Megan had asked if she was seeing anyone. She said, "You look happier than I've ever seen you, Mom." Karen had just stayed quiet in response. 2 weeks later, I invited her over for dinner. It wasn't a grand plan. I just wanted to see how things felt between us when we weren't tangled up in each other. By the end of the night, though, I was back at her place, and we made love twice. There was no denying it. I was falling in love with her. And yet, I hesitated. The age gap, the family connection, it all weighed heavily on my mind. Still, we moved forward. Our relationship made it through the final stages of the divorce. After that, Karen took Megan on a cruise. When she got back, she told me Megan seemed calmer, more at peace. The anger she had carried was fading, and she seemed to be taking some responsibility for the end of our marriage. Did she ask about, well, us? I asked. Karen paused. Yes. What did you say? Another pause. I told her I was happy, but that I wasn't sure if it was something permanent, and that I had no plans to introduce anyone to her. Looking back, I think I might have drifted in that strange middle space forever if something big hadn't happened. By then, Karen and I were spending time together several nights a week, and we talked every day. Despite being married to Megan for over 5 years, what I had with Karen was stronger, deeper. It was surprising, even to me. She had gone from someone with very little experience to a passionate, loving, and adventurous woman. She brought something out of me that no one else ever had. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Friday afternoon. We had plans that evening to see a play and spend the night together. Around lunchtime, my office phone rang. It was Karen, and she was crying. "David," she said, barely getting the words out. "Please, can you come over right now? I really need you." I dropped everything and made it to her house just after 3. She opened the door with red eyes and tear-streaked cheeks, then collapsed into my arms. I held her for a while, gently stroking her back until she stopped shaking. Finally, I helped her to the couch and sat down beside her. "Okay, talk to me. What's going on?" She looked like she'd been through a storm. Her hands trembled as she clutched mine. "I swear I didn't plan this," she said, her voice cracking. "I never thought this could happen. She pulled back and stared into my eyes. Please do not hate me. And if you want to walk away, I'll understand. Karen, I have no idea what you're talking about, I said, trying to stay calm. She took a long, shaky breath. I'm pregnant, David. 7 weeks. It felt like the air got sucked out of the room. Pregnant? We talked about the possibility once, more in passing. She had told me the doctors had said years ago she likely couldn't have kids again. After Megan was born, things hadn't worked out with Tom, and eventually she just accepted that motherhood was behind her. And now this? I just stared at her, my brain frozen. And that silence? She took it as rejection. Her whole face crumpled. She started crying harder than before, panicking, apologizing, saying she'd understand if I never wanted to see her again. That snapped me out of it. I took her face in my hands and said gently, Hey, breathe. Just breathe, okay? I'm not mad. I'm just shocked. Karen's tears slowed. I wrapped my arms around her again and held her close. I have a lot to think about, I said, echoing the words I had used weeks earlier. Please don't be upset if I need a little time. This changes everything, and I want to make the right decision, not just for me, but for all of us. She nodded. Take the time you need. I needed you to know. I kissed her forehead and stayed there for a while, just holding her. When I left her place that day, I knew one thing for sure. My life was about to change in a way I never expected. Karen was still crying when she looked at me and said, in broken, gasping words, I did not know this could happen. Please do not hate me. If you need to walk away, I understand. At first, I had no clue what she was talking about. But I sat her down, held her hands, and looked into her eyes. Karen, I said calmly, take a breath. Just tell me what's going on. I'm not following. She sniffled, wiped her cheeks, and, after a pause, said the words that stopped my world for a second. I'm 7 weeks pregnant. It hit me like a lightning bolt. We had talked before about how she probably could not have children anymore. After giving birth to Megan, she had some kind of complication that the doctor said made future pregnancies unlikely. She had tried with Tom, but nothing ever happened. She had accepted that chapter was closed. So now this? I must have looked stunned because I was, and in that silence, Karen misunderstood. Her face crumpled, and the tears started flowing harder, like she thought I was about to turn and walk out. That moment changed everything. Something clicked inside me. I suddenly saw the truth so clearly. I loved her, more than I had ever loved anyone in my life. And I wanted that baby, our baby. I did not care about the age gap, about what people might say, or how complicated it all was. I held her face in both hands and wiped away the tears with my thumbs. Karen, I said, my voice shaking. Stop crying. I need to ask you something. I had to repeat myself a few times before she calmed down. Then I said the words that had been building inside me for weeks. Will you marry me? Will you make me the happiest man alive? It took a moment for her to process what I had just asked. I said it again, and then again. And when it finally sunk in, her face lit up. She laughed through her tears and said, Yes. We hugged, so tight it felt like nothing could come between us. I told her I loved her, every part of her. She smiled and said the past 6 months had been the best of her life. And now, somehow, it had gotten even better. That moment, frozen in time, was shattered when we heard the front door open. Mom? Are you home? Megan's voice echoed down the hallway. We both froze like deer in headlights as she walked into the living room. Her eyes darted between us, landing on our intertwined hands and our closeness. Confusion flashed across her face, followed by disbelief. She asked, David, what are you doing here? Before I could come up with a response, Karen blurted it out. Not exactly the way either of us would have planned. I'm pregnant. 7 weeks. With David's child, she said. And we're getting married. At first, Megan laughed, like it had to be a joke. But as she saw the truth in our eyes and the way we stood together, her face fell. Her knees buckled. I caught her before she hit the floor and gently carried her to the sofa. Karen rushed off to get smelling salts and a cold compress. Before using them, she turned to me and whispered, I think you should go before she wakes up. I nodded, kissed her softly, and promised, call me tomorrow. We'll go ring shopping, whenever you're ready. She gave me one of those hopeful smiles and kissed me back. Later that night, I gave my tickets for the theater to a friend and his wife. They were thrilled. I even offered to babysit their kids sometime as a favor. But Saturday came and went without a trip to the jewelry store. Karen called around noon and explained that Megan had stayed the night, and they needed more time to talk. I understood. They had a lot to work through. I told Karen I loved her and that I'd be ready to go shopping as soon as she was. She laughed. Maybe Monday, she said. Whatever they talked about that weekend, I never heard the full story. But I know this. Karen loves her daughter deeply. Despite everything Megan had done during our marriage, Karen wasn't going to cut her out of her life. And I respected that. Karen told me later that she had been completely honest with Megan. She had assured her there was never anything romantic or physical between us until my marriage was truly over. And that was the truth. To Megan's credit, once the shock wore off, she took it better than I expected. She was sad, yes, but also happy for her mother. She knew Karen had never experienced real love before. And believe it or not, she was even a little excited at the idea of having a younger sibling. We all agreed that Megan and I were not going to stay close, but I made sure to tell her that I held no grudge. I respected her as the mother of Karen's first child, and I assured her I never meant to hurt her. The only real problem we ran into was something Karen found amusing: her sudden increase in libido thanks to the pregnancy. She joked that she had 20 years of lost time to make up for, and I sure wasn't going to argue. We kept an incredibly passionate connection going until she was just over 8 months along. We paused for a bit until a couple months after our daughter, Emma, was born. Karen and I got married 2 months before Emma's arrival in a small but beautiful ceremony. Megan was a bridesmaid. We gave her nothing but respect. As for George, the man Megan cheated with, I was not as forgiving. I had it confirmed through a private investigator that he and Megan had no contact after the divorce papers were filed. But when I learned he was getting engaged, I sent his fiancée a full report on his past with Megan. That relationship ended within a week, and George moved to another city not long after. As for our own family, Karen and I wanted one more child. Because another pregnancy wasn't likely, we had one of Karen's eggs fertilized with my sperm and hired a surrogate. With some financial help from Tom's old estate, we made it work. A little over a year later, when Emma was about 15 months old, we welcomed our son, Ethan. Now, with 2 amazing kids, Emma and Ethan, running around our house, I look at Karen every day and feel even more love than when I first realized I was falling for her. We never expected this life, but I would not change a thing. And add one more twist, Megan got married too. Her new husband is a good man, someone both Karen and I like. She's expecting a baby girl in just a few weeks. I have no idea what kind of relationship her daughter will have with our kids. But I know one thing for certain. Karen will love that baby girl just as much as she loves Emma and Ethan. Because that is just who she is, someone with an endless well of love to give.